Trump takes an unexpected shortcut through a quiet farm, and at first it feels like nothing more than a detour forced by a backed-up highway and a convoy that refuses to move at a human pace. The choice happens fast. A staffer scrolls through a map on a tablet, sees a thin gray line that cuts behind a cluster of worn barns, and suggests it as a time saver. Trump agrees before anyone can second-guess it. The air outside is thick with the kind of heat that settles into the ground and waits. When the vehicles turn off the paved road, the tires move from smooth asphalt to a cracked dirt track that holds the memory of every storm that has ever passed through. No one in the motorcade knows who owns the place. No one expects anything more than a few bumps, a short stretch of dust, and a re-entry onto the main road. The farm does not look like much from a distance. The fields are wide and quiet. A few rows of corn lean slightly, stirred by a breeze that carries a mix of soil and old timber. The barns look tired but alive in the way rural buildings often are. They hold years of stories without saying a word. Trump looks out the window and sees nothing unusual. No reporters, no crowds, no fences plastered with signs. Just land that minds its own business. He is used to noise and people and constant direction. The calm feels strange, like stepping into a room where everyone has paused mid-sentence. As the vehicles crawl deeper into the property, the track narrows. Branches brush the sides of the cars. Loose stones pop under heavy tires. A bird flutters from a fence post and disappears into tall grass. Trump shifts in his seat. He likes control, motion, momentum. A slow passage through someone's farm is the opposite of what he considers productive time. Staffers talk quietly into earpieces. Drivers keep their eyes forward. The Secret Service scans for any hint of movement. Yet nothing moves except the wind. The farther they go, the more the farm reveals small details that hint at a life that has been shaped by work rather than attention. Tools hang on hooks outside a shed. A tractor sits frozen in the shade of a tree. Faded rope coils near a water pump. These are not props. They belong to someone who wakes early, who solves problems without waiting for help, who knows the rhythm of the land. Trump notices the age on some of the wood, the stubborn survival of it, the way it refuses to collapse even though time has every reason to knock it down. A turn in the track brings the convoy toward a building half hidden behind a cluster of trees. It is smaller than the barns, almost swallowed by shadows. The door stands slightly open. There is nothing ominous about it, but there is something unexpected in the way it breaks the stillness. Trump leans a bit closer to the window, not out of fear, more out of curiosity. He has been in countless unpredictable places, but this is different. It is quieter. It has an honesty he is not used to. The agents take notice. Two of them exchange a look. The convoy slows even more. Someone mutters a quick assessment, probably something about structural age or visibility. Trump does not hear all of it. His attention has drifted to the ground outside, where the dirt carries several overlapping footprints. They are not fresh, yet not old enough to be ignored. They tell him that someone has been here recently, someone who did not expect visitors. The engine noise settles into a low hum. Dust rises behind them and hangs in the air like a curtain. A dog barks once in the distance, a quick warning to no one in particular. The sky stays still. Trump glances at the building again. He wonders why anyone would leave a door open in a place where wind could blow it wide at any moment. It feels like an invitation or a mistake. He cannot tell which. The track curves again, bringing the convoy so close to the structure that the agents feel the need to step out. The door moves a little, a slow sway that responds to the shift in air when the vehicles stop. Trump watches the agents approach, their steps measured, their eyes sharp. He does not expect anything more than a routine check. He certainly does not expect anyone inside. The farm has looked abandoned of people since the moment they entered it. The stillness holds. The breeze returns. The fields stay untouched. Trump waits inside the car, watching a simple shortcut turn into something that does not fit neatly into anyone's schedule. A hidden war hero is discovered on the property, and it begins in a way no one in the convoy expects. The agents move toward the small structure with the open door, their steps steady, their hands ready but not tense. Trump watches through the window. expecting them to find a pile of tools or maybe an animal sheltering from the sun. Nothing about the farm hints at danger. Yet something about the silence feels charged. The kind of quiet that holds its breath right before someone speaks. The first agent reaches the door and pauses. He tilts his head, listening. Then he pushes it open with 2 fingers. The door swings slow, creaking just enough to cut through the stillness. Dust drifts inside the thin beam of sunlight that slips through the gap. From the motorcade, Trump sees nothing, just a dark room that seems smaller than it should be. The agent steps in. His partner follows. Both disappear into the shadowed space. A few seconds pass. More than enough time for routine. Not enough for trouble. Trump leans forward. He cannot hear the words, only the sharp shift in tone. The agents speak into their radios with a level of control that comes only when something unexpected appears. Not a threat, not a weapon, not anything dramatic. More like the shock of finding something out of place. Something that does not match the rest of the farm. One of them steps back into view and signals for the medical officer in the convoy. Trump raises his brow. Medical? On a farm that looks untouched by anyone but the wind? Before he can ask, the officer rushes forward with a small kit. 2 more agents position themselves near the door. The air around the convoy tightens. Curiosity replaces routine. Inside the building, the agents crouch near a figure seated against the back wall. At first they think he might be injured or unconscious, but when they speak to him, he opens his eyes. Slow, careful, like someone waking from a place deeper than sleep. He looks thin, bearded, wrapped in layers that do not match the heat outside. His hands rest on his knees, palms up, as if he has been meditating or waiting for someone he was told would eventually arrive. The medical officer kneels beside him and checks his pulse. The man does not resist. He lifts his gaze toward the doorway where sunlight spills in. His eyes carry the kind of weight that comes only from years of things no one else has had to carry. When he speaks, his voice is low and steady. He tells them he is fine. He tells them he has been here a long time. He says it like it is a fact that needs no apology. One of the agents asks his name. The man answers with hesitation, not because he has forgotten it, but because he has not spoken it aloud in months. Maybe longer. The officer looks through the layers on his jacket and spots a worn military patch sewn into the inside pocket. It is faded, but the emblem is clear enough. A regiment known for some of the toughest missions overseas. Missions that only a handful of people ever talk about, and even fewer understand. Trump, still seated in the vehicle, gets a quiet update through the open door. The words reach him in pieces. Former soldier. Long missing. Possibly believed dead. Living alone on this property without drawing attention. He turns his head slowly, absorbing the information. The simple shortcut that was supposed to save time now leads to a discovery no one could have predicted. Not a danger. Not a protester. A man who once stood in places most people would never volunteer to enter. Outside, the agents clear a small area, giving the medical team room to work. They take notes, document the patch, check for identification. The man answers their questions with a calm that feels out of place for the situation. He seems neither frightened nor eager. More like someone who has made peace with isolation and is now facing company he never asked for. When he tries to stand, his legs shake from disuse. 2 agents steady him. He resists at first, out of pride rather than defiance. Then he lets them help. His breath catches as the sun hits him full on the face. It is clear he has not stepped outside in a long time. Trump watches him emerge, a figure shaped by history that no one knew was sitting in the shadows of a quiet farm. The agents speak quickly into radios again. Not alarmed, but urgent. They need confirmation on identity. They need records checked. They need to understand how a decorated soldier disappeared from the world and ended up here without anyone noticing. The man listens to them with a faint smile, the kind that holds both memory and distance. He looks at the fields as if they belong to him, or maybe as if he belongs to them more than he ever belonged anywhere else. The encounter shifts the tone from routine to remarkable the moment the war hero steps into the sunlight, and everyone in the convoy feels the change even before anyone names it. What began as a simple detour now carries a weight that settles over the farm like a slow-moving cloud. Trump sits forward in his seat, watching as the agents guide the man toward a patch of level ground. The silence around the convoy is no longer the quiet of an empty property. It feels charged, like the world has paused to witness something unusual taking shape. Trump has met thousands of people in countless unpredictable settings, but this is different. There is no stage, no crowd, no cameras. Just a man who seems to carry entire years in the lines on his face. The agents keep a respectful distance, reading the situation with the instinct that comes from experience. No sudden movements. No loud questions. Only patience. Only presence. The medical officer runs a few tests, listens to the man's breathing, checks his hands for old injuries, looks over the patch sewn inside his jacket. With each small detail, the picture becomes clearer. This man is not a drifter. He is not lost. He is someone who lived through something most people cannot imagine and chose to vanish afterward. Trump steps out of his vehicle, something he rarely does in an uncontrolled place. The agents tighten their formation around him, but do not block his path. He walks slowly toward the man, not out of caution, but out of curiosity. There is a gravity to someone who has been quiet for so long. Trump studies him with the directness he is known for. The man meets his gaze without flinching. His eyes hold the kind of steady focus that comes from training that never leaves a person, no matter how much time has passed. The staffers nearby exchange whispers. They know what it means to find a missing soldier. They know the headlines that have come from similar discoveries in the past. But none of that feels relevant here. What matters now is understanding why he is here, why he stayed hidden, and why he looks more at ease on this forgotten farm than most people look in their own homes. The farm itself feels transformed. The barns, the fields, the worn paths that once seemed unremarkable now hold the sense that they have been sheltering a story waiting to surface. The man speaks again, answering a question from one of the agents. His voice is firm but quiet, like he isn't used to speaking more than a few words at a time. He explains that he came to the farm after leaving the military. He does not explain how he got here. He does not offer a full timeline. His sentences are short, but the pauses between them say more than the words. Trump listens, hands at his sides, his expression sharpened by genuine interest. He asks a few questions himself, nothing complicated, simple things meant to understand the man standing before him. The more the war hero talks, the clearer it becomes that he is not confused or unstable. He is deliberate. He made choices that led him here. He built a life in silence, away from crowds and noise, away from memories that still flicker behind his eyes. The agents adjust their posture, shifting from investigative mode to something closer to respect. Even the medical officer seems to handle his equipment with an extra measure of care. As they speak, the farm seems to shrink around them. The world narrows to a single clearing in front of a small building with an open door. Trump notices the details on the man's jacket again, the stitching, the patch, the wear. These things were not chosen for appearance. They were carried for meaning. The moment feels heavier than the sun overhead. The staffers know it too. Phones remain in pockets. No one documents anything. Instinct tells them this is not a moment to record. It is a moment to understand. The breeze moves through the trees and shifts the dust at their feet. Trump asks what made him choose this place. The man looks toward the fields, toward the barns that held his silence, toward the tools and the tractor and the dirt path that led the motorcade to him without warning. He answers with a softness that surprises even him. The farm gave him peace. It gave him space to remember and space to forget. He never expected anyone to come through the gate, much less a convoy. That truth changes the air again. Routine evaporates. The schedule becomes irrelevant. The shortcut that was supposed to save a few minutes has revealed a story no one was prepared to hear. The encounter shifts from discovery to recognition, from surprise to understanding. And everyone standing there knows they have stepped into a moment that does not happen twice. Long-buried stories of sacrifice surface as the war hero stands beneath the open sky. And the longer he remains outside that dim shelter, the more the layers of his silence begin to loosen. The medical officer finishes the basic checks and steps back, giving him space. The agents ease their stance, shifting from formal readiness to something more grounded. Trump watches the man with a steady interest, sensing that there is more here than a simple case of someone hiding from the world. The weight in the man's posture suggests history, and not the kind people tuck away lightly. The conversation begins in fragments. One of the agents asks a careful question about his unit, and the man replies with a pause between each word. He is choosing his sentences, not because he is unsure, but because he is deciding how much to share. Years of keeping his thoughts to himself have made his speech deliberate. Trump listens, arms loosely folded, his attention fixed on the man without drifting to staffers or schedules. The tone has fully shifted. This is no longer a moment shaped by protocol. It has become a space where memory begins to press against the present. The man mentions a mission no one expected him to bring up. Not with exact details, not with dates, but with enough clarity that the agents glance at one another. They recognize the operation. They know it was one of the hardest assignments the regiment ever took on, the kind that demanded everything and returned little. He speaks of teammates who never made it back, of decisions made under pressure, of moments that stretched into something far longer in the mind than they ever were in real time. His voice does not crack. It does not rise or fall. It remains calm, the way people speak when they have carried a memory so long that it has fused with the rhythm of their thoughts. Trump asks a simple question. What happened after? The man shifts his gaze toward the barns, toward the fields that have held him in place for so long. He talks about returning home, but never really arriving. He talks about the noise of the world feeling too sharp, the crowds too bright, the expectations too heavy. He explains that he felt himself disappearing even while surrounded by people. He began to drift, looking for a place that did not demand explanation or performance. When he found the farm, he found quiet, and in the quiet he found a kind of safety that no building or city could give him. The staffers listen in silence. None of them interrupt. Even the radios stay off, as if everyone knows that the moment cannot be broken by static. The man continues, telling them about days spent fixing tools even when they did not need repair, nights spent sitting in the small shelter where the convoy discovered him. He says he talked to no one because he felt he had nothing left to say. His stories were heavy. His memories were sharper than any blade. He believed they belonged to him and to the people who lived them beside him. The world outside did not need to hear them. Trump nods slowly. He understands more than he expected. He has seen people shaped by experiences that no one else can fully grasp. He asks about the regiment again, not for political reasons, but because he wants the man to know that his service has not vanished into the air. The man lifts his chin at the mention of the unit. It is subtle, but it is the first sign of pride he has allowed to show. Not pride for himself, but for the people he served with. As he speaks, more stories surface. Memories he did not plan to share. Small details that reveal a life built on sacrifice long before he stepped onto this farm. He talks about the first time he carried a wounded teammate out under fire, the first time he realized he might not return home, the first time he understood that leadership meant more than orders. He talks about promises he made, and one promise he feels he failed to keep. His voice tightens, barely noticeable, but enough that the medical officer steps a little closer, not to intervene, but to show respect. The farm itself seems to listen. The breeze softens. The dust settles. Even the animals in the distance quiet down. It is the kind of silence that forms when truth starts to rise to the surface. Not the dramatic kind, not the kind designed for speeches or cameras. The honest kind. The kind that comes from a person who has carried too much for too long. Trump does not interrupt. He gives the man time. Each story that surfaces carries both pain and clarity. It becomes clear that the man did not hide because he was afraid. He hid because he did not know how to bring his experiences into a world that moved too fast and asked too little. He kept his stories buried because he believed they would burden others. Now, standing beside the convoy, he lets them rise one at a time, steady and unpolished, shaped by truth rather than presentation. The agents listen with the posture of soldiers hearing someone speak their language after years apart. The staffers listen with a stillness that shows they understand the gravity of what they are hearing. And Trump stands there, taking in every word, as the quiet farm becomes a place where long-held stories finally find their way into the open. The moment forces a rethink of assumptions and history, as everyone present begins to understand that the man standing before them is not just a missing soldier or a quiet recluse on an old farm. He represents a gap in the story most people think they already know. Trump studies him with a focus that feels different from his usual public presence. There is no crowd to shape the moment, no cameras, no pressure to speak in sound bites. Instead, there is a man who lived through battles that never made headlines and carried the aftermath in silence. The simplicity of the scene clashes with the weight of what he reveals, and that contrast shifts everyone's thinking in ways they do not expect. The staffers start to realize how wrong they were about the farm when they first pulled onto the property. They assumed it was empty, forgotten, irrelevant, just a patch of rural land being used as a shortcut. They did not imagine that someone with a history written in scars and silence was living inside one of its worn structures. They did not expect that the man who quietly lifts his eyes toward the horizon has seen more than any briefing or report could ever explain. The place they thought was nothing more than a dusty detour now feels like a sanctuary, holding a story larger than its fences. One of the younger agents steps back, taking in the scene from a distance. He thinks about the patch on the man's jacket. He thinks about the missions he has only heard about in training. He realizes that the soldier in front of them could be the missing link in an operation that historians still debate. The kind of mission where most facts are classified, and the rest are only half understood by the public. Hearing the man speak with such clarity forces the agent to reconsider everything he thought he knew about service, sacrifice, and what it means to return home. Trump senses the shift as well. He looks around at his team, noticing the change in their posture. They came onto the farm ready to manage a delay, ready to keep the day's schedule moving. Now none of them mention the schedule at all. The discovery has pulled them into a story bigger than appointments and routes. Trump asks another question, this one softer, almost reflective. He wants to understand what pushed the soldier into isolation. The answer is quiet but firm. The world moved too fast. People talked too loud. The memories stayed closer than the voices around him. He needed a place where no one asked him to explain what could not be explained. The staffers shift again, taking in the meaning behind his words. They were raised on simple narratives of victory, loss, and heroism. Clean lines. Easy labels. The man's presence disrupts that simplicity. He shows them that sacrifice does not end when the mission does. It does not fade with time or medals. It lingers, reshaping a life long after everyone else has moved on. His story makes them rethink the way they speak about veterans, the way they measure service, the assumptions they make about who is fine and who is struggling. One agent asks whether anyone knew he was here. The man shakes his head. Trump considers what that means. A decorated soldier vanished into rural silence, and no one noticed long enough to look. It challenges the idea that the system always knows who needs help. It challenges the idea that honor is always met with support. The agents exchange glances that say more than words. Each of them has seen people slip through cracks, but never in a way as stark as this. The farm becomes a mirror reflecting truths everyone has avoided. The cost of war, the weight of memory, the quiet fall of someone who once stood unshakable. It forces Trump to view the moment not as a political footnote, but as a human crossroads. The man in front of him is not a story to be simplified. He is a reminder that history is built from lives that rarely get the chance to speak for themselves. As the conversation unfolds, even the landscape takes on new meaning. The fields are no longer just fields. They are the ground where the man rebuilt his life piece by piece. The small shelter becomes more than a hiding place. It is the one space where he felt the world could not demand things from him. Every detail forces the group to reconsider the limits of their understanding. The soldier continues speaking without drama, without asking for pity. His calm honesty carries a power that breaks through assumptions. The staffers see that the history they talk about in meetings is incomplete. The agents see that service does not always leave clean endings. Trump sees that a shortcut through a farm can reveal truths far outside the lines of any planned path. By the time the man pauses, everyone around him is rethinking something they believe they already understood. The soldier is not rewriting history. He is filling in the parts no one knew were missing. The shortcut becomes a turning point neither man planned as the sun reaches its highest point and the quiet farm settles into an almost unreal stillness. The convoy sits parked on the dirt track, its engines cooled to silence. Trump remains outside his vehicle now, no longer treating the stop as a delay, but as an unfolding moment that has pulled him in deeper than he intended. The war hero stands nearby, steady on his feet for the first time since emerging from the shelter. The agents form a loose circle around them, not out of caution, but out of respect for whatever is taking shape. Both men regard each other with a kind of measured curiosity. Trump sees someone who walked away from the world not out of weakness, but out of a need that most people cannot name. The soldier sees someone who has seen pressure of a different kind, someone who understands that leadership carries its own kind of burden. Neither expected this meeting. Neither expected the farm to hold anything except dust and a narrow path forward. Yet here they stand, linked by a moment that neither could have predicted. The agents watch the exchange closely. They have seen Trump in countless situations. They have watched him navigate crowds, crises, and noise. They know how he usually responds to interruptions in his schedule. This is different. He is not impatient. He is not distracted. He is listening with an attention that surprises even those who know him well. The soldier seems to sense this shift. He speaks in a tone that is calm, direct, and free of any need for approval. Trump asks what he wants now, what he hopes to do next. The soldier does not answer right away. He looks toward the field, toward the barn, toward the shadows of the life he built in silence. He says he does not know. He says that for the first time in years, he feels the pull of the world again, faint but real. He admits that he has wondered what might happen if someone ever found him. He wondered whether he would stay or go, whether his memories would allow him to step forward. His words hang in the air, and the weight of them settles on everyone listening. The turning point forms quietly, without ceremony. The soldier stands at the edge of a choice he never expected to face. Trump studies his expression and recognizes what the man is wrestling with. He asks if he needs time. The soldier nods. Time has been both his refuge and his prison, and now he is being asked to consider something new. An agent steps closer, offering him water and a chance to sit, but the man shakes his head. He wants to stay on his feet. He wants to face whatever this moment is becoming. A breeze moves through the farm, and the dust at their feet swirls in slow circles. The fields look different now. The shelter he lived in no longer looks like a hiding place. It looks like a chapter closing itself without being pushed. Trump senses that the man is not just deciding whether to leave the farm. He is deciding whether to re-enter a world that once took everything from him. The staffers watch quietly, their earlier assumptions long dissolved. They realize how rare it is for a person's life to pivot in front of witnesses. They understand that they are seeing a crossroads unfold in real time. The soldier speaks again, this time more openly. He admits that part of him stayed hidden because he feared the world had moved on without him. He feared he would not recognize it. He feared he would not fit anywhere except the quiet corners he carved out for himself. Trump listens and does not rush to respond. He knows better than to fill the space too quickly. The agents look from one to the other, sensing the gravity between the lines. Trump finally tells him that he does not have to decide everything today. He does not have to commit to a future he cannot picture yet. All he has to do is take the next step, whatever shape it takes. The soldier considers this. His eyes shift toward the convoy, then toward the road, then back to the small shelter where he spent so many nights alone. The farm feels like it is holding its breath. The turning point is not loud. It is not defined by a single word or gesture. It forms in the soldier's posture as he straightens his back. It forms in the way he takes in a deeper breath. It forms in the quiet understanding that the world has opened a door he thought was closed forever. Trump does not push him. He gives him space. The soldier stands still for a long moment, letting something inside him settle. The shortcut that was supposed to save minutes has instead unraveled years of silence. It has brought two lives into the same clearing, each carrying truths that neither expected to share. The farm, once ignored by everyone except the man who lived on it, has become the place where a new path begins without being asked for.